one of the things that the race to the top and the federal intervention has highlighted, to me at least, is it is ironic in some way that you have a Democratic president who is pushing some long-held, particularly teachers' unions' views about what should and shouldn't be done. That's also obviously a major issue in the state of California around the interest groups and how that might play out. Talk about the politics of education for a moment.
Yeah, it's too bad there is so much politics in education. I mean, one of our whole things with children now is children are one of the few issues that everyone really cares a lot about. I mean, I've looked at a lot of public opinion polling, and if there's any issue that unites us as a country, it's that every kid should have a fair shot, that every kid should have a good education. And this is like, and even very controversial issues affecting kids, i.e. undocumented kids. We should raise taxes to give health insurance to illegal immigrant kids. Even that gets wide support. So people like kids and want to do right. So it's really frustrating that education has gotten so politicized. And the reason I was sort of watching my words as I talked about the race to the top legislation is the one frustrating thing about that is it sort of politicized education more than I think it needed to. But the politics of education, let me explain it this way. In the real world, here tonight and out throughout the state, the politics of education is people want good schools, and local business folks and local people in the community like their educators. They know how hard a job it is. They want to support their schools. They know how important it is. And you know, that might not be always true in every little local dispute, but there's a general sense of we're all supporting the schools, and the people that care about schools are the people that live in the community. In Sacramento, that's not the politics of education. In Sacramento, the politics of education is CTA, the teachers union. And you're either for them or you're against them. They donate a lot of money. And then the other politics of Sacramento is some of these other alphabets, the school boards, the administrators, the business officials, and these education groups. And then I would like to see the business community more involved, and there's some business groups that are somewhat involved. But it's a different world. It's all viewed as an interest group world. So people say things in Sacramento like, wow, education really did well in last year's budget. Very sophisticated people in Sacramento say this, and I look at them and I go, and they say, well, CTA signed off on the deal. That's how they, you know, so you can have $1 billion cut, billions and billions and billions cut, and all of us, if, you know, when schools here on the coast get cut, you say, wow, schools got cut. In Sacramento, if CTA says this is okay or that's okay, that determines things. So the politics in Sacramento is very, you know, are you with the union or against the union, the educator lobby, and I'm overstating it only slightly. That started to change a little bit, and this is not, and I'm sure someone will ask about this, the teachers union is not the problem with education. I have some disagreements with it, but you know, teachers, for God's sake, are the most important thing in education, and the teachers union is not the problem. That having been said, the politics of education and the role the teachers union has played and the way people perceive the teachers union positively and negatively is the problem. Because I have business leaders who I've talked to in Sacramento and say, why don't you push for more money for education? You know, like, given the pie, why wouldn't you want more money for education than prisons or services for adults? And they give me this deer in the headlights look. And I know what's behind their thinking. What behind their thinking is, yeah, well, that's CTA's thing, that's union. I can't be supporting what they want. And it's literally that screwed up. So the politics of education is a mess in Sacramento. Nothing like the real world. And the last point of that, in Washington, D.C., it's a little better because education is just a small piece of what goes on in the federal government. The federal government should not be controlling local education. But if you think about the politics of education in Washington, D.C., if you look at what George Bush Sr. said, what Bill Clinton said, what George W. Bush said, and what Barack Obama said, very, very similar. And so you have, you know, conservative president, liberal president, and there's more consensus than you think. So to me, it's very interesting that the last 4 presidents have been much more on the same page, and to me, it sort of shows something about there's more consensus about education that people give credit for. That just gets lost in the politics of Sacramento.
So we're in an environment now, and I suspect for the next little while, where it's going to be ugly budget fights, and the likelihood of everybody standing together and singing Kumbaya in Sacramento is low. But tell me a little bit past like the next few months, a story about how we might be able to actually get a positive set of conversations going in Sacramento to kind of overcome what you just described?
Well, I'm glad, because take everything I just said, and so the answer to that is that's all going to change. And by that meaning that I think the way we get around this is the teachers union recognizing that they're going to do a lot better if the politics are more like they are in the real world. You know, that if everyone says, wait a second, this is not just about CTA, but this is about our future, and you have business groups and labor groups, and civil rights groups, and everyone coming together and saying, let's figure this out together. And so I think there has been a change. When things get so bad, people are willing to do things differently. And so what I've not just seen, but in lots of conversations with the teachers union, business groups, other organizations, I think that there's more of a recognition now that, you know, enough's enough, that there's no reason California's school system should be so underfunded. There's no reason we should be scoring so much lower than other states. You know, let's figure out and get together. And as, you know, corny as it sounds, let's get together and fix this. And I think there's a lot of positive for that. And I'll probably compliment him again later, but we really need not just the teachers union to be more willing to work with other folks, which I think they are now, but we need business leaders to really step up. And in addition to your local brew pub owner, Lenny is a big force in the business community statewide, and he's been too often a lone voice to the business community saying, let's step up and really fix the schools. And I think Lenny has been able to get some other folks now to join him, and so I'm optimistic about us being able to do that.
So one more state question, and then I want to bring it more local. 2010, there's going to be an election in June and one in November. Got a gubernatorial election. Where does education fit in that, and are we going to see other initiatives or other things that are a part of this this whole dynamic?
Well, I'm hoping that the next governor is different than all the other ones I just said and really prioritizes education. I really haven't heard that yet, but I'm hoping, and I'm also hoping that the next governor doesn't say something in the campaign that's so stupid that locks them into something that doesn't make sense. So I'm nervous about this current campaign, but the four candidates, who knows, maybe there'll be another one, but the four current candidates, the good news is they're all smart people, and so hopefully they won't lock themselves into some wrong direction in the campaign, and then they'll really lead it. So maybe people have questions right now. I guess let me just put it this way, that someone running for governor who can somehow say that money is not an issue in education, I find baffling, you know, especially when some of the candidates for governor have donated, you know, tons of money to colleges, and, you know, I'm not quite sure what the difference is. You know, college has a lot of money, and what do? They try to hire the best folks and keep their teachers happy, and they keep the facilities up to date. It's not rocket science. They cannot do that without money, and they need a lot of it, and they raise a lot of it, and surprise, surprise, the better ones tend to get the most money, you know, raise the most money. And so are there differences with K-12? Yes, but not fundamentally. You need money to attract and keep really good people, and you need money to have good facilities. So I find it stunning that some of the candidates who have donated a lot of money, to personal money, to higher education can then turn around and say, the schools have enough money. So I'm hoping they don't say that anymore, and then we can be on our way to try to fix it. And then initiatives, there's going to be a lot of initiatives on the ballot. I think that, I don't want to get too much into it because you guys talked about it last month, but a lot of the reform initiatives, I think, and the Constitutional Convention are good for kids and are going to allow us to make some big changes. It'll make it easier for us to help our schools. So the Constitutional Convention I see as a pro-education measure. I'm not sure if there's going to be any specific education measures that qualify the ballot in 2010, but we'll see.